You're good.
Okay, well, good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming out at our special time in our special room. I hope you're enjoying the more luxurious settings than we usually are used to.
We just don't have a spotlight on here.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. A spotlight, that would be nice. We'll ask for that next time. Next will give us pretty much everything we need here. They're very helpful. So, it's crunch time. It's hard to believe that we have been at this, whether you've been a member of this group or whether you've been, doing anything else for the resistance or any other activities. We've been at this for almost 2 years now.
Yes.
It's hard to believe that. We are 49 days away from the November elections. And
Yep.
49 days, that's right. Can't come soon enough as far as I'm concerned. But we are 49 days from finding out just exactly how much all our hard work is paying off. So one thing you're going to hear tonight is that we have so many opportunities for anyone who can help with reaching out to voters and getting people to vote for the right people this November. We're really pulling out all the stops and doing everything we can for that. Our guest tonight is California's Secretary of State, Alex Padilla. I just talked to a staff member out there. He's running a couple minutes late, traffic and everything. So we'll go ahead and talk about our regular club announcements first, and hopefully that'll take up plenty of time. And by the time you're all bored to tears, then our guest will be here. Just kidding. All of our announcements are really, really exciting because we're doing great things. We are helping to win the 2018 elections. And you may have heard me talk about this a little bit, or if you've read our newsletters or looked at our Facebook page, you've definitely heard me, read me writing about this. We are sending a team to Nevada this weekend to canvass for their upcoming elections. Not only do they have one of the most important Senate races in the country, where Senator Dean Heller is on the wrong side of the aisle, and we're trying to replace him with somebody who's not a Trump crony. That'd be Jackie Rosen, who's running for Senate there. They also have an important governor's election, and also the district where Reno is, they have an incumbent Republican congressman who's also a Trump ally that we're trying to persuade them to get rid of. So we're going to be knocking on doors on Saturday and Sunday. Got about 10 volunteers so far, and anyone else who wants to join us, it's not too late. Now, the deadline has passed if you wanted a free place to stay, but hey, there's plenty of great places to stay in Reno. It's a fun town. So anyone who wants to come up, even if you can come up for Saturday, let me know, and I can give you the details. I'll be here after the meeting, or if you want to send an email to indivisiblesacramentoca@gmail.com, the same address that our newsletter comes from. We'll be happy to add you to the list. It's going to be a lot of fun. Or if you're looking for opportunities to canvass a little closer to home, we got plenty of those. I see our friend from Ami Bera's campaign is here, and he'll be happy to tell you about. John will be happy to tell you about all the opportunities they have for working with that campaign. Or actually, did you want to? I hate to put you on the spot, John, but did you want to mention that?
So this Saturday and Sunday, we got offices in Carmichael and Elk Grove, getting groups together at 10 o'clock and 1 o'clock for a regular day of action, as well as evening canvasses during the week. It's honestly a way even better time to talk to voters is like evenings during the week. We sometimes have like double the contact rate compared to like weekends, because they're going to be at home. So really great opportunity. We got about 20 days left before the ballots come out. People start voting. So it's definitely very urgent. We have a lot of persuadable voters that we're trying to add to our Get Out the Vote universe and encourage low turnout Democrats as well. So it's crunch time for sure. Nate's right. If you need any details on that, a lot of it's posted online or on our social media, or you can you can talk after as well.
Thank you, John. But that is not the only opportunity you have to get involved. So in case any one of these opportunities is not the right fit for you, don't worry, we have more. You've also heard us talk about California Away Team many, many times. I was just out with them last weekend. We went to El Dorado Hills, knocked on 25 doors. That's all you got to do is just knock on 25 doors. And they talked to Democrats who voted in the presidential election, but not the previous midterm election. These are Democrats who they might turn out to vote. If they do, they're probably going to vote for our side, but they're need a little push, a little reminder. And I did that. It was really easy. It didn't take long at all. Every single conversation, every person I talked to was actually happy to see me. So it was really good. California away team is still active in District 7, where Congressman Barra is trying to retain his seat. And they're also active in District 4, where we are hoping to get rid of Congressman Tom McClintock, which would be one more vote toward taking over the House. So, and for those who don't know, District 7 is it's like the Fair Oaks, kind of the eastern and southern suburbs, Elk Grove, that area. And District 4 is a little further out. There, it stretches from like Roseville to Placerville to El Dorado Hills, and actually all the way down to Yosemite National Park. Unfortunately, I didn't get to go to Yosemite to canvass, but the El Dorado Hills was nice enough. So plenty of work with him. You can Google California away team if you need to find the website. Actually, I think our normal person who comes to talk about them isn't here today, but they've always got plenty of opportunities there. And another one is postcard parties. So we have a new postcard party. Again, if you read the newsletter, you might have heard about this, but does anyone here know who Jacqueline Moreno is? Okay, we've got a few hands. She's great. Back in January of 2017, when this whole Indivisible thing was just getting started, we had about 5 or 6 groups popping up around Sacramento area, and she formed the one in Elk Grove. We actually had some joint meetings with that group. She's a great organizer, great person. She's a small business owner in the Elk Grove area. She founded an Indivisible group, like I said, and she's running for Cosumnes Services District, which is a local office. It's a first step kind of office. They are in charge of the parks and the fire department in Elk Grove. So it's important work, and it'd be great to have somebody who shares our values and who's really one of us in that spot. And you know, this is all I can say this from experience from knowing her. So we're doing a postcard party for her on Wednesday the 26th. And if that's not enough to get you out there, it's at a pizza place, and we will buy you pizza. I will buy you pizza. It's at Round Table Pizza, the 26th. It's in the Pocket Greenhaven neighborhood, right at the end of Florin Road, where Florin intersects with Riverside. So hope to see you there. Okay, and then do you have Julie or Ellen? Do you have any other postcard parties? Or oh, great! I was gonna. I just wondered if you have any other postcard parties that you wanted to highlight right now, or are they all?
Well, I have quite a few postcard parties, but they're for Jackie Smith, who's running for
Julie
Assembly
Chapman
and Assembly District 6.
Okay.
So in Sacramento County, it's Fair Oaks, Orangeville, Folsom, and then goes into El Dorado Hills, Cameron Park, and then swings over to Granite Bay, Roseville, Rockland, up in that area. So we are trying to do our best to get Jackie elected and get rid of the Republican that is very difficult to deal with. We've had dealings with him. We've been trying to do the SB 822, the net neutrality bill.
Yeah.
Which we'll be talking about later.
And so if anyone wants to do that, we have one at Back Bistro in Folsom. Actually, Moms Demand Action is sponsoring that one. And that's this Sunday from 2 to 5. And then we have one next Thursday, and the Sacramento Women Dems is sponsoring that. That's at my house on Thursday night. And then we have another one for Jackie Smith later on. If any of you are interested in that, Susan, you should have received the email today.
I did.
As many of you did. But if anyone else is interested, just let me know.
Okay, and we do have more announcements, but I think we'll save those for later because I see our guest has just arrived. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome our guest tonight. He is the current Secretary of State of our great state, as well as a former state senator and former president of the Los Angeles City Council. It is amazing to have the opportunity to hear from him and speak with him today, especially given that we have this election coming up, and we are just honored to hear from the person who is in charge of election security and has done so much to improve voter access in the state. Please welcome California Secretary of State, Alex Padilla.
Well, good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
All right. So make sure. When I visit schools first thing in the morning, I got to make sure the students are awake at 8 o'clock. And when you do an evening event, we want to make sure that if you need another cup of coffee. But thank you so much for coming out tonight and for having me and for being indivisible.
Yeah.
That's all right. I was at my most recent Indivisible event was in Santa Cruz just a couple of Fridays ago.
Oh, wow.
And at some point during my remarks tonight, before we go to Q&A, I'll talk about the last and best question I got while I was there. But I think what would be helpful is to not go too deep on a lot of topics. We'll leave time for Q&A, but kind of touch base on a few things. And I think for me, because I am up for re-election in November, it's been a lot of sort of kind of reviewing what the last several years have been about, right? Because 4 years ago, and you might have heard my campaign for Secretary of State, where 99% of the questions that I got were, what are you going to do to get more people registered to vote? Right? We have decent registration rates, but a lot of work to do. What are you going to do to get more people to vote? Right? Decent numbers of registered voters, but not everybody turns out every single election. If you notice in those two questions, there was nothing about a Twitter war with the President of the United States and a question about massive voter fraud or the lies about massive voter fraud that we hear. And there certainly wasn't frequent questions about election security or cybersecurity in our elections. So over the course of the last couple of years, there's actually been a lot of that. There's a disproportionate amount of our time and my time in those issues. So let me take a few minutes to talk through some of the high points in each of those categories. First and foremost, voter registration, right? As we all know, you can't vote unless you're registered to vote to begin with. So over the last 4 years, we've gone from California being one of the few states to do online registration. Am I moving too much for you?
No, you're good.
I'll try to stand still.
You're good.
From paper registration to online registration, and earlier this year we launched automatic voter registration in the state of California. And I think the simple elegance but profound power in automatic registration is this. So please share this with your friends. Right? If you think about this, if you're eligible to vote in America today, but not registered, you don't get the voter information guide from the state. If you're eligible to vote in America today, but not registered, you don't get the sample ballot from the county. If you're eligible to vote but not registered, chances are campaigns and candidates aren't knocking on your door. They're not calling you during dinner time. Right? They're not stuffing your mailbox. And so the sheer process of systematically adding millions of more voters to the rolls over the next couple of years creates all that activity. And turnout is bound to go up as a result. So anyway, that's my pitch on automatic registration. But as we've seen every election, I know there's some precinct blockers and phone bankers in this audience. Just because somebody's registered doesn't mean that everybody turns out to vote every election cycle. We have the 505 voters and the 405 voters and the 1-5 voters and who we're calling today. And so aside from trying to get more inspiring, motivational candidates to seek office, it's also a lot of the logistical stuff, right? If we stop and think about elections, how they've been conducted in the past, there's not too many options. You can vote by mail, and that's pretty convenient. But if you want to vote in person, you've been limited in the past to one location, close to where you live, election day only, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Well, the good news is this is Sacramento County, right? The largest of the 5 counties that have migrated to the Voters' Choice Act. And so I know I'm preaching to the choir when I say it's more days, more ways to vote, more choice, more convenience for voters. Everybody's getting the ballot in the mail a month before the election. You can mail it back, utilize a drop box, or if you want to go in person, utilize any vote center in the county. Right? Over the course of 11 days, real in-person early voting, wherever it's most convenient to you, whenever it's most convenient to you. And if you might have missed that voter registration deadline, we have same-day registration at each of the vote centers. Get this, 4 years ago, gubernatorial primary, 25% turnout statewide.
Oh, wow.
That's true.
This year, I mean, not necessarily numbers to brag about, but 37.5% turnout statewide.
That's great.
That's after having added 1.5 million voters to the rolls, right? I like math, so it's like a dynamic equation. 12.5 point increase with that registration increase. That's big. Every single one of the Voters' Choice Act counties even exceeded that 37.5 point statewide average.
That's why it has to go.
So we know good things are happening, and many more counties to adopt this in 2020, but Sacramento is leading the way. So pat yourselves on the back for being part of that. A quick note on the voter fraud conversation. I don't want to dwell on it because then all of a sudden we're feeding into their narrative. But I can assure you there is not massive voter fraud in California or anywhere else in the country. The only reason I bring it up is because I think it's one of the best examples of California's resistance. Right? We're organizing, we're pushing back, we're resisting on so many issues: climate, health, immigration policy, on and on and on. But the current occupant of the White House is so fixated on having lost a national popular vote, he started scapegoating millions of illegal votes, which is not true. And he called out California specifically. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I do.
Even before he was sworn in, he was calling out California specifically. And it was my duty and obligation to defend our honor. Yes, to conduct elections on the up and up. But when we're accused, when I'm accused, when elections officials in all 58 counties are accused, and when so many volunteers throughout the state who volunteer on election day to help conduct the elections are accused of not doing their job right, we gotta stand up. We gotta push back. That wasn't enough for this person. Continued to insist, so much so that he ends up creating a commission, an advisory commission on election integrity. And before they even met for the first time, a little flash down memory lane, right? Before the commission met even for the first time, they sent every state in the nation a letter, including me, please provide to us, for every registered voter in the state, name, address, date of birth, social security information, party affiliation, vote history, felony history, if any, military, it's like on and on and on. A lot of stuff well beyond what we jot down on a voter registration card. Well, I was the first Secretary of State in the country to say no. And before it was all said and done, a couple things happened. First, the majority of secretaries, both Democrat and Republican, said no. And before it was all said and done, they had to disband the commission because we knew what it was all about in the first place. It was a pretense to advance a voter suppression agenda, and we weren't going to stand for it. So the last bit here that I'll touch on is election security, election integrity. People still ask me, how do we know, right? Did we get hacked, or how do we make sure that our votes are going to be counted? So a couple things to help remind you or inform you that you should share with your friends and family. Even before 2016, California was doing some things right. All the voting systems that we use, all the infrastructure that we use in California, before any county is eligible can select a piece of equipment or a system, it has to be tested and certified first, right? So we have our security standards. Equipment has to be tested, and only those that meet or exceed those security requirements are eligible for a county to select to be part of their elections infrastructure. Among those requirements, paper ballots, paper ballots, paper ballots. So when I hear the hearings on the Hill and they're making these recommendations that states should move to paper ballots, they're not talking about us. They're talking about a handful of other states that haven't gotten to the point. California's been ahead of the game. There are some machines out there that for accessibility purposes don't use a paper ballot, but accessibility is important. But even those, we require a voter verified paper trail where we can count, recount, and audit the votes as necessary to ensure both the accuracy and the integrity of the vote. The other key thing to know, by law in the state of California, our voting equipment, what we use to mark a ballot, cast a ballot, count a ballot, cannot be connected to the internet.
Oh.
Right? every election, there's what we call a post-election audit. Up until now, that post-election audit has been every county has to take a percentage of the precincts and do a manual tally, a hand count of the votes. So the hand count better match up with the machine count, right? Otherwise, you got to figure out what the discrepancy is here. And if necessary, then you just count them all by hand to be ultra sure. We have a bill on the governor's desk as we speak that will help move California from that 1% manual tally to what we call a risk limiting audit. Similar thing, it's an inspection of paper ballots after the fact, but it's a little bit more dynamic, more strategic in the methodology, where if it's a landslide election, okay, maybe you spend a little bit less time there and more time in those very close races, where a couple of votes, a little bit of funny business here and there will have a disproportionate impact, right? So you don't have to call your legislator, they already voted for it. But if you want to send the governor an email or call his office or send in a letter, it can only help.
What bill number?
The bill number is
2125.
AB 2125 by Assemblymember Quirk. How's that for an overview? That's just on the election side of the business. But I want to end and open up to Q&A with a big thank you, because some of you have been involved for a long time, some have been very regularly involved, and some are just feeling the political environment that we're living in right now and realize we are not going to stand for this, and we're going to do something about this. I see it all over the state. I see it all over the country, but nothing quite like California. And the reason I referenced that Santa Cruz event a couple of weeks ago is because they got all the standard questions about registration and cybersecurity and everything else. But just before the event ended, I got a question, Mr. Secretary. What are you going to do to get more people to vote this November? I was a little put off by the question. And I said, Santa Cruz. We're all here because we're indivisible. It's not about what the Secretary of State's going to do to get more people registered and voting. It's what we're going to do to get more people registered and voting. Because the reason we are all here, the reason we are all indivisible is because what we see coming out of the White House, what we see coming out of the Republican Congress, is not the country that we know. It's not the country that we believe in. It's not the country that we choose to represent. We know the values that bind us and have made California what it is and move our nation forward. We embrace diversity. We embrace opportunity for all. We balance public safety and civil liberties. We believe healthcare is a fundamental right. On and on and on. And when the BS, the hot air, is dominating the news cycle, we know we can't just sit back and wait for it to change. We gotta make the change. That's why you convene regularly. That's why we're phone banking and precinct walking and doing whatever we can to organize both friends and neighbors and coworkers and strangers in our community. Because we've had it. And we're going to begin to turn it around by taking back the House this November, taking back the Senate, and setting the stage to take back the White House in 2020. And last but not least, if you only see or hear me out and about the state 6 out of 7 days a week, it's because I've taken about a day a week to help Secretary of State candidates in running in other states. In my spare time and with my wife's blessing, I serve as chair of the Democratic Association of Secretaries of State.
Very good.
Here's the sad truth. As I stand before you here right now, there are only 13 elected Democratic Secretaries of State in the country. A few more if you count secretaries that are appointed by governors in a handful of states. But we're vastly outnumbered. So it's no coincidence that you hear a lot more of voter ID and purging of voter rolls than you hear about, pre-registration of 16 and 17-year-olds and automatic registration. And so this year I'm trying to help 7 candidates for Secretary of State running in Arizona, Nevada, Colorado, Michigan, Ohio, Iowa, and Georgia. those states sound familiar? They're kind of critical from a voting rights standpoint, from an electoral college standpoint, right? And if we can get those champions in all those right states, we're not just turning California bluer, but California truly is leading the way and exporting all these reforms and policies and pro-voter initiatives to all these other states that will absolutely make a difference for our nation. And with that, thank you, thank you, thank you, and take your questions. Or did I cover it all? Does everybody know James Schwab, by the way? James Schwab works in the Secretary of State's office. He's Sacramento resident and head of our Voters' Choice Act and all of our policy and planning office.
We're such a heavily Hispanic state, and I know that there's been such an atmosphere of fear in the last 2 years. Like even when there were the past, like the fires, a lot of Hispanic people were afraid to go to these centers for help for fear of being ID'd and whatever done to them. And yet we know also the ratio of voting is particularly low in the Hispanic community. Is there what's to be done to counter those fears and to raise that rate?
So first and foremost, I'm elected to serve all the people of the state of California, but I do take a little bit of pride in being the first Latino to serve as California Secretary of State and be a little bit of that motivation, inspiration for people who would otherwise choose maybe not to get involved to actually get involved. So from 2014 to 2016, we did see registration and turnout rates go up, and we just got to kind of keep going in that direction. Some of the policy work that we've done, I'll take automatic registration just as an example. Because we know how many people are registered, the kind of profile of registered voters and high propensity voters and low propensity voters. We also have a sense of who the eligible but unregistered are. It's disproportionately lower income families, working class communities, communities of color, right? Latinos being the biggest group in California, and young people. Right, so if you really break it down, Latino millennials are like the biggest untapped block of voting power in the state of California. And so when we initiate things like automatic registration, we know who we're disproportionately enfranchising because they're disproportionately the eligible but unregistered. Right? So from a policy standpoint, I think we're moving the needle. From a turnout and participation standpoint, this is just gut what I see as I travel up and down the state each and every day. California has been through this before. Right? Y'all remember 1994 and Proposition 187? When the Latino community was under attack? What that did was encourage a lot of people like my parents at the time, who had been here for almost 3 decades as legal permanent residents, but not citizens, to finally go through the naturalization process. They did become citizens and they never missed an election. It also inspired me, who, as a young person, like so many, had wanted nothing to do with politics and government, to realize I have no choice but to get involved if I don't want to be a target anymore politically. I raise that because I think that's exactly the context of what's happening in the rest of the country. Right? As demographics are changing in so many other states, this is their Prop 187. Donald Trump is their Pete Wilson of this generation. And so it is waking people up. Everywhere I go, people may be excited, they may be encouraged, they may be anxious, they may be fearful, but everybody's paying attention to politics right now. And I think it's going to translate into turnout this November. I really do. Yes?
When I was canvassing in Elk Grove, I knocked on a door, and the person I was looking for wasn't there, but this guy answered the thing, and they said, "So are you registered to vote? Are you going to vote?" He said, "I'm a felon." And he was petitioning to get his franchise back. And I know there's a movement to re-enfranchise people who have been released from prison, but also to re-enfranchise people who are in prison. Can you talk a little bit about that and how we can advance that?
Sure. So California is one of the more progressive states when it comes to restoration of voting rights for former felons. The law is actually pretty clear. In California, if you are currently in state prison for a felony conviction or on parole for a felony conviction, you lose your voting rights until your time served is done. Once your sentence is done, once your parole is done, your voting rights are restored. You have to re-register, and then you can start voting again. That's it. There's a big misperception of people who are maybe in county jails. Right? County jail is not state prison. Or maybe you're on probation. Probation's probation. It's not parole. So there's a little bit of an education piece that needs to happen in California to remind folks who think they lost their voting rights but haven't, that they can still register and that they can still vote. Or maybe after your time served is done, that you can easily re-register. It's not like other states where it's a lifetime ban, or you have to petition the governor, and the governor only goes through 3-4 files a year, or whatever that extreme policy is. But there are efforts that require legislative action. You know, if you're going to change to franchise people who are in state prison, etc., that's just a change to state law. It's been proposed a couple of times recently, and the legislature hasn't been successful yet, but those conversations are still ongoing. Yes?
Are there any public education campaigns that the Secretary of State's office is doing to inform sort of those who have been automatically registered but probably don't know they're registered to vote, to get out and also to give them sort of, this is how you vote? It's one, I know there are a lot of people who are not regular voters, who are intimidated, have no idea what the process is, don't even know what the date is. Is there any effort, social media and otherwise, to really just get the word out about here are all the different ways you can vote?
Right. So we're all in it together. There's, the automatic registration, which, people aren't going to be oblivious to the fact that they've been registered, because when they're at the DMV going through their transaction, they're getting asked the questions, not just, well, you don't want to opt out from voting, right? You have to pick your political party preference. Government can't do it for you. What about your vote by mail preference? Government's not going to do it for you. So there's at least that measure of alert or advising them, if you will. And like I said, once somebody's on the list, especially as a new voter, you're going to be hearing from candidates and campaigns, and that's exactly what's in the voter information guide and the sample ballot. What's on the ballot, when election day is, where your polling place is, where the vote centers are, what the schedules, all that nuts and bolts information and activity. Sacramento County being one of the Voters' Choice Act counties, we're trying public events, we're trying social media, different people communicate in different ways. We even struck a partnership with Nextdoor. So we have that Nextdoor app, right? We're the only state official in the country with a partnership with the Nextdoor account. And we're using the Nextdoor platform to remind people when the registration deadlines are, when vote centers are opening. Don't forget to send in your vote by mail ballot, all those sorts of things. So trust me, we try to get creative and innovative in how we communicate. Yes?
I just wanted to springboard off that to let people know that we're one of the organizations that's going to work with your office and the Voters' Choice Act Coalition to adopt a vote center here in Sacramento, and it's one that was underutilized, not very much turnout, and Secretary of State's office is trying to get people to adopt vote centers where there wasn't as much turnout, and then to get creative in whatever way we want to come up with to get the word out, to go around to the community, to put flyers up, to hire a high school marching band to come out and just let people know here's where it is, here's when it's going to be open, da-da-da. So watch the space.
So you can adopt the school, you can adopt the library, you can adopt the vote center. Love it. One or two more questions. Yes?
Is the ballot still going to be in multiple languages?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's one of the questions that gets asked of every voter who's registering, their language preference. So it's English, but if somebody prefers Spanish or whatever else, both the ballot, all the related voting information is in the language of choice.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you mentioned that the lower income tend to be the ones who vote least, and it's probably my belief that the lowest income are usually the youngest as well, and are usually young parents. And I'm wondering if we could require schools, when they're registering new students, to at least offer a voter registration card to each new registrant at that school.
Great minds think alike. So we have a couple different initiatives. One at the high school level. The last 2 weeks of April and the last 2 weeks of September are designated high school voter education weeks in the state of California. So we have schools and school districts throughout the state constantly doing stuff, and I go on tour. Right, I was at El Camino High School first thing this morning. You know, if you're wondering why not Rio Americanas, because I've already been there.
They already have that
So I sent James there this morning, right, to talk to high school students, because if you're 18 or older and a citizen, you can register to vote. California allows for 16 and 17-year-olds to pre-register.
Yeah.
Right, and that's been wildly successful. But at the university level, we have partnership agreements with the UC system wide, CSU wide, and California community colleges statewide to integrate utilizing their communication platforms, right? Registration information, deadlines, don't forget to vote, as students are either registering for the semester or the quarter and enrolling in those classes too. So we're working in partnership with other arms of state government and the private universities too. We're not forgetting about them. So great minds think alike. Well, I know you have other agenda items and business at hand. I just want to, again, thank you for your volunteerism, for your commitment, and for having me today. I hope this information has been helpful. If you have any follow-up necessary, don't call me, call James. We'll be back, and remember, 49 days from today, we're going to change the world. Thank you.
Okay. Do you want to get a picture of the group? Or?
One of those.
Where do you plan to be in 4 years?
4 years? Scratching my head, I don't know, Sabrina, what's next? Wherever my wife lets me be. Thank you all very much.
Okay. I dropped my notes. So we have one more state bill that we want to take a look at, and that's Assembly Bill 2125 from Assemblymember Quirk, which we should give the governor's office a call about that and make sure he's planning to sign that. We actually have some others that we're really following closely. If you remember, about, was it 6 months ago, we spent the whole hour talking about all these state bills that we were following. Well, that's paid off because we've been following these the whole time, and one of them in particular we've really been working hard for. A couple others we've been, occasionally asking people to make calls about. So, Ellen, are you able to give an update on some of the progress of some of these bills? Or am I putting you on the spot?
A little bit, but I can
Okay.
go through. The one that we can comment on the most confidently is SB 822.
Okay, do you want to come on up? And so this is Ellen Chapman. She does our website. She is our treasurer. She does a whole bunch of things for this group, including knowing
We did select a group of priority bills when we had that meeting. And on our website, I don't have it in my head right now, but on our website I have tried to sort of update what the current status is of each of those bills. But the bill that we followed the most closely this year and worked the hardest on was SB 822, which was our net neutrality bill. And it passed against all odds. And we're, so I hope everybody is calling Brown. It's on his desk, it's waiting to be signed, but please call the governor's office, use ResistBot, however you do it, but keep the pressure on because that needs to be signed. Now, if he has to the end, what did we decide it was? If he doesn't sign it, it'll automatically.
It will become law without his signature.
Right, and I don't know if it's 10 days or how many days that.
He has 30 days.
He has 30 days.
To either sign it and it becomes law or veto it.
Okay.
If it passes the 30-day mark and he does nothing, it automatically becomes law.
Okay, and it got to his desk a week ago Friday. And from what we hear from Senator Wiener's office is they've been having long discussions with the governor's staff about this bill. So they're going over it with a fine-tooth comb, which I think probably means he's going to sign it, but who knows, right? So, and for the other bills, I'm sorry, I can't comment on them off the top of my head, but if you look on the website, there is a way to check the status of the other bills that we are following. But for sure, 822 was our big
And what
push.
is that website?
It's indivisiblesacramento.com, and it's our website that has all of our events, all of our daily, and since I'm up here, should I? So the other thing that we have on our website that's new is we've added an immigration page. So there's a drop-down menu from the daily actions, and it's a set of, as events come up, we had a lot of interest and support. If you'll recall, when we had Holly Cooper from the UC Immigration Clinic, we had an event and raised some money for them and got a lot of donations for the kids who are over in the Yolo County facility. We figured out that this group is interested in issues related to immigration, and so we are, as opportunities come up to volunteer and help with immigration-related issues, we're posting them up there, along with a list of organizations that you could give money or time to that deal with immigration. So take a look at that if that's an area of concern. Jill has been kind of a point person on that. I have a lot of information for us.
In addition to that 822, there's one other bill I wanted to call your attention to. If you're on some of the National Indivisible emailing lists and that they know you're in California, they probably sent you an email today about Assembly Bill 3131, which is a demilitarization of police forces bill. Basically, it doesn't ban police departments from doing anything, but it would require them, if they're going to be buying military style equipment, to have like a public hearing first and just let the public know that they're doing it. So it's really a transparency bill, and it was actually co-sponsored by Indivisible. So it's the first bill at the state level here in California that Indivisible actually got involved in writing. So that, so actually that's good work. We didn't do it personally, but so Indivisible, the national organization, helped out with that. Anyway, it's on the governor's desk, and they're asking for people to give him a call to sign that. So that's 3 bills now that we really are talking about. We got 2125 for the election security that the secretary was telling us about. We got 822 for net neutrality, SB 822 for net neutrality, and then we have 3131, which is the demilitarization of police forces bill. And I actually happen to have the governor's phone number right here. Bless you. It's 916. 445 2841. So anyone who's got some free time tomorrow morning, just go ahead and give them a call and let them know, hey, we'd like to sign these. Sure.
Is it AB or SB on 31?
3131 is AB. It's 916 445 2841. And then let's see, going through my list here. We have another exciting initiative. Did you want to talk a little more about the adoptive voting center?
No,
what we're going to be doing?
That's all I know. I mean,
Okay.
I can tell you the center we are adopting is at the Marina Vista Community Center, which I don't know its exact location, but it's somewhere between here and I think Broadway, Riverside, like that kind of quadrant. Am I in the right general? Okay.
It's in the housing project. It's on CV Circle, which is in the project on Broadway.
Okay, well, it was really low turnout there. So what we'll be asked to do is basically what I was describing before. For folks who are interested, look for information in upcoming emails and newsletters about volunteers who might want to get together and brainstorm ways we can put out the word on social media, whether it's canvassing the neighborhood with flyers, the band idea, anything to let the neighborhood know that it's there, and to let the neighborhood know what its hours are. I'm not sure yet how many days it will be open. Some of them are open as many as 10 days before voting day. I'm waiting for those details now, so more to come on that.
And if we want to save money and not hire the band, we could learn to play instruments ourselves. Any tuba players in the crowd. We could,
Right, just stop it, you go home.
Right.
There we go. There we go. Okay. So I believe that's the end of our prepared announcements, but if anyone has any questions or anyone has any ideas or any announcements they'd like to make. Yes.
Is there an all-day event in Carmichael on the 29th?
And Carmichael on the 29th.
Is that a postcard?
Would that be-
Yeah.
I can take a look at our
The
website.
Callaway? It's not going to be in Carmichael. We've kind of exceeded the number that they could hold at that location, so it'll actually be in Fair Oaks at my house on the 29th.
Yay!
If it's Callaway for CD7.
Okay.
California Away Team canvassing.
And so are you gonna post that information on the website then?
We have I think we have a link to California Away Team.
We have a link to the Callaway team, and we have many of their events already posted. So have you been checking the events
Well,
page?
that's how I found out about the Carmichael on the 29th.
Yeah, if you're not sure about it, follow the link to Callaway, and that's the final.
Oh, okay.
That's
And
the
once you
final
sign
thing.
that, then you'll get an email about the times, what we're doing that day, my address, all of that stuff. Once you sign up for the event, then they send you an immediate email back saying, okay, here's all the details.
And that's for Amy Vera's district.
Right.
Yeah, California Away Team is incredibly well
yeah.
organized for an organization that was pretty small not too long ago. So they do a great job.
Yeah, they do. They're very organized.
Any other? Yes.
I think you had clearly in your email, but I'm not sure that Organized When Legislate is doing phone banking on weekends. And
Yes.
it's basically senator, some representative focus.
I think they're doing one for Beto O'Rourke this weekend,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, like 4 hours for Beto and then Beto, and then 4 hours for someone else in California, I think. So yeah, and I don't know the location, but it's at the Organized When Legislate Facebook page.
So if you can make it to Nevada this weekend, then that would be a close second for a great opportunity.
There's Democratic headquarters.
It is, and there is also there's now a master calendar for the Democratic Party of Sacramento County, and there's a link to that on our website too. And all of this stuff for any of the Democratic endorsed candidates, all of the phone banks and the canvassing and the postcard parties, it's on their master calendar. So you can access that through our website as well.
And I'll put in a good word for Organized When Legislate or Powell. They're a really good group. We did some activities with them last year. We did a phone bank for the Virginia election that they had last year. Yeah, they do some great work, so it's definitely worth checking out. I believe we posted their announcement on our Facebook site, and I'll try to make sure to get it in the newsletter too next week. So, then let's see, the next hand that I saw, I think you had your hand up first.
Yeah, so are there any initiatives of going to community colleges and registering students to vote, in addition to what Alex was talking about? I know that some people went to Folsom one time. Are there any other initiatives going on?
We did a lot of Julie's our voter registration expert. So.
Actually, we were at Folsom Lake College on September 4th, 5th, and 6th. And it was a combined group. So we had people from Indivisible there. We had people from the Women Dems, Sacramento County there. And also our host was the Folsom Area Democratic Club. So all three of us combined, we covered 16 hours of voter registration over those 3 days. We were able to register 62 students over those 3 days. Many people that are here tonight were helped do that. We did 2-hour shifts. Many people did more than 2-hour shifts. I mean, we were really successful, and it was a great event.
Do you know if they have any initiatives?
Pardon?
Any initiatives like that coming up?
I don't have any I'm stretched a little thin these days. I'm volunteering on a campaign. I'm trying to do postcard parties. We're trying to get back to Folsom, but what I'd really like to do is get to Sac City College as well.
Yeah.
Folsom has told me that if we want to go in their quad area, all I have to do is let them know ahead of time what hours we'll be there. We have to bring our own tables, chairs, canopy. We wanted shade those 3 days. It was pretty warm. And so if we want to bring all of that stuff, they will let us do voter registration. It's a public right to go into that area and do what we need to do. So if anyone wants to take the initiative and and step up and say, hey, I'll do that one. I've got a briefcase full of all the material you need. I've got the canopy, I've got a tablecloth and some chairs, and I'd be welcome to help you guys set up, kind of get you going the first day or on a day, and then let you go from there.
So I'll talk to you in a few minutes.
Okay.
I want to see if I can be involved in that, but I'm especially interested in Sierra College.
Sierra College, okay.
Because of McClintock, and that's.
Oh, absolutely. Now, Jackie Smith, the person who's running for Assembly District 6 that I'm volunteering a lot of hours with, her office is actually right across the street from Sierra College.
Okay.
And so we've been trying to get some inroads into that. So I'd be interested, if you're interested in doing something there, I'd like to talk to you about joining that group and try to get over there and get people registered.
And of
Thanks.
course, if you guys do manage to put something together with that, I will be happy to get the word out for people.
Yep.
on that, so.
Okay, great.
And then I think you had a question?
Yeah, the master calendar,
Uh-huh.
what, is that Democratic master calendar?
So yes, it was put out by the Sacramento County Democratic Party, SCDP, right? And they got in touch with us, and I think a lot of our events don't actually qualify for the calendar because we're not officially, Democrats.
Well, but anything that we're doing for any of the endorsed candidates have ended up on that calendar.
Okay.
including
So
my
some of the
postcard
stuff that we're
parties.
doing
Yes,
does.
yeah.
So there's a link to it on our website. It's under the.
It's
let me
under
look at what
events,
tab.
I
Under the
think.
events tab. So if you go to our website under events, then you should be able to find a link to the Sacramento County Democratic Party's master calendar of events with plenty of stuff. Yep. Yes.
I'd like to just suggest one really simple thing to do. It's standoneverycorner.com. And
Okay.
if you'd like to check it out, it will explain it. You pick a corner near your house, you get a sign that says, hey, vote, whatever you want to say. You stand there for an hour once a week, every day, whatever you want to do. But if you check out standoneverycorner.com, it'll give you some ideas on what it is.
Okay.
It's real simple.
That seems like a really easy thing to do. That you don't need to wait for someone to organize something. You just
Yeah.
stand up.
Get out there and
Hopefully,
vote.
you live on a corner where people drive by. If you're just on a really not busy side street, then that's a good idea. Standoneverycorner.com. Okay. Yes.
Any consideration about having an extra meeting next month, the week before elections?
So we have our regular scheduled meeting next month. And we have a very special guest who I'm not going to announce yet because they've tentatively confirmed but not officially confirmed, so I can't. We haven't talked about having another meeting. I guess that's something we could think about. In the past, what we've done is we've had like an event organizing session or something like that as a second meeting. I guess if people are interested, we can look into it. I don't know if we'll be able to get another room at this place.
Just off the top of my head, it occurs to me that maybe something we could tie in with the Adopt a Vote Center, maybe
Oh,
that
okay.
location could be a place for an event, like right before, or just a
Okay.
thought.
Okay, we'll give that some thought and see what we can come up with. One thing that we are definitely planning, though, is kind of an additional meeting, is an election night party.
Yeah.
Because we're either going to want to celebrate all the results of our efforts, or
Shake ourselves on
have somebody to complain and grumble with. So we're looking into a location, probably one that's open fairly late, and it's probably going to be in like the Midtown downtown area, and a place with food. I've got one in mind, but again, I don't want to announce it because of confirmation. But did you have
I
one?
would suggest Honolulu.
Honolulu. That's great. It's probably the last place where the polls close in America, so that seems doable. But in the event that we can't all afford the flight to Honolulu, I'll pick a place around here in the off chance. So we're hopefully going to have something that's open pretty late because sometimes those election tallies can drag on a little bit. We're probably, honestly, on election night, we're probably not going to know the results of a lot of the races we care about the most, because with the vote by mail in California, a lot of votes don't get tallied until a couple days later. So I don't know how much we'll know about California, but we should know about what's happening in the other states by late in the night. So we're gonna try to find something Tuesday, November 6th. Make sure you're not doing anything. Well, make sure you're doing a lot, but then in the evening, after you're done with our Adopt a Vote Center, after you're done standing on a corner, after you're done driving your friends to the
Canvassing,
polls,
writing postcards.
we're gonna have a party. Anything else? Yes.
Are we gonna be able to get information from, our county, voter registrar about whether or not all of our labors have materialized with increased amounts of voters?
Oh yeah, that's definitely something we could, the secretary mentioned earlier that the turnout in this county, or in the election overall, went up by what, 12 percentage points? And
Can we find out that
it's,
that's Democrats? Can we get that, you know?
we should be able, yeah, I think those are numbers that are publicly available, so I'll try to compile some of that for our first meeting after the November election and see what we can have.
Okay.
Yes.
Actually, to that point, the Secretary of State's office, that's part of the conversation I was having loudly, I guess, is that the Secretary of State's office is having some conference calls just before the election, just after the election, with community groups that have been working with the Secretary of State's office. And so between us, we'll come up with somebody that will sit in on those phone calls. If nobody else does, I will. And so we'll be able to get that information back, because that's really something that's important to me personally, is that we put in a lot of time and effort. I want to know what has come of it. So
We'll definitely find out if our efforts are worthwhile here. Any other questions or announcements, or anybody call their representative about something this week? Oh yes, John.
Every day.
Again, my name's John Gannon, organizer for the Ami Barra campaign. So what we're planning is our last 4 days, the Get Out the Vote operation there. GOTV, we call it. It's like really, really fun, exciting time when we're going back to our supporters to make sure that, you know, we actually win the election here. And Ami Barra is always an extremely tight competitive races. This year's no exception. He only got 51% of the vote in the primary election, and he was the only Democrat on the ballot. So it's going to be another squeaker, and he's always going to recounts the other two midterm elections that did anyway. And so when we do this like canvassing and phone banking, we can move the needle a couple percent. And in a district where a couple percent really matters, you know, we got to do this kind of work. It's us winning those elections. And so what I want to do really quickly is pass around a couple of clipboards here. If anyone's interested in signing up for even just you know, one shift over those last 4 days, it really is the most important thing you can do to, you know, help us, you know, take back the house, you know, even from just a local race.
Where would the phone banks be?
We'll have a few staging locations all over the district, in I believe in Florin, as well as Elk Grove and Carmichael, Arden, Fair Oaks, and Folsom. So we're going to have them all over the place, and it's going to be going all day, 9 to 9, and then on election day, 8 to, I think, when did the polls close? 7 or 8?
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock, yeah, so 7 to 8 o'clock on election day as well. Any other questions? Well, you know, hope everyone, you know, signs up. You know, it's a very important time of the year. If you can't do, you know, if you can't fit in everything, like that's the thing you should squeeze in. So thank you.
And just
Do you have signs available?
Yeah, there are signs at our offices. Yeah. And if you need the address, you can find it online or ask me.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. Anything else? Thank you.
Just curious, I was wondering how many people here are from Congressman Barra's district. I think we have about a close to a 50-50 split between Barra's office and Matsui's office. So, and again, Congresswoman Matsui is not in a tough re-election fight. She's running against another Dem who I don't think is gonna expect to get much. But did you have a question?
Who's zip code 95864?
Is that what part of town is that?
It's city and it's
by Rio.
It's by Rio.
I think that is Congresswoman Matsui's district. by Rio Americana High School.
Yeah.
I think the city of Sacramento is entirely Matsui's district. It's been a while since I looked at the map, but and then most of the eastern suburbs and Elk Grove are in Congressman Barrett's district. And then there's this one little tiny chunk of the northern county that's in Congressman Garavendi's district. Do we have some more questions or?
No, I was just gonna say, most of the art area is in Congressman Barrett's district. That's
Okay.
where I am, so Rio is in that
Rio
area.
Oh, Rio is in. I'm sorry about that. I misspoke. Okay, so that is Congressman Barrett. And anyone who doesn't know, you can always go online. Just Google "Find My Representative," and there's a website where you just type in your zip code and it'll tell you who all your representatives are.
website too.
And there is a link on our website, as Ellen pointed out. Honestly, everything you could ever want to learn is on our website.
Somewhere on that
If you take away nothing from, well, take away two things from our meeting tonight. One is do everything you can to volunteer to talk to voters, and two is everything you could possibly want to know is on our website. And I think I'll leave it with that. So thank you everybody for coming out tonight.